The story starts at a school where a young girl named Sun Hae-young asks her PE teacher why the girls have to play dodgeball while the boys get to play soccer, which takes up more space. As she argues with her teacher, we learn that Hae-young's mother was very kind and generous. Her mom would often take in foster kids, and Hae-young felt like she missed out on her mom's time, energy, and love because of it. This led Hae-young to start thinking about life in terms of profit and loss, even in personal matters. Now, as an adult, Hae-young is at a colleague's wedding. She and her coworker talk about how much money they should give as a wedding gift. Hae-young complains about how much she spent on weddings in general. It turns out that the groom is her ex-boyfriend, Woo-jae, whom she broke up with just 6 months ago. Meanwhile, a man named Kim Ji-look is at a job interview at a company called Leader Electronics. Instead of asking about his skills, the interviewers focus on the fact that Ji-look is an orphan. Another woman in the interview is asked about how she would handle a case of sexual harassment. Ji-look speaks up and says the issue should be reported to the Human Rights Commission, but the interviewers don't like his answer. Afterward, Ji-look apologizes to the other interviewees. At the wedding, Hae-young gets a call from her mother, who seems to be staying at a nursing home. The nurse asks Hae-young to visit her mother soon. As the wedding continues, we see a flashback of Hae-young's breakup with Woo-jae, where she bluntly tells him she doesn't love him anymore. Woo-jae is heartbroken and falls down, so Hae-young puts a bandage on his hand. In the present, at the wedding, photos of Woo-jae and his wife Yelin's engagement are shown, and the bandage is still on Woo-jae's hand in the pictures. When her coworker mentions that this is the couple's 1-year anniversary, Hae-young realizes that Woo-jae must have been cheating on her for at least 6 months. Furious, Hae-young grabs a tablecloth, turns it into a fake wedding dress, and uses a napkin as a veil. She confronts him in front of everyone about his cheating. The scene then changes to an apartment where a young web novel writer named Jae-yeon is struggling to write an erotic scene. Another woman, Hoi-seon, joins her, and it seems they are both Hae-young's friends. Hae-young soon arrives looking sad and shows them some flowers. She actually caught the wedding bouquet. It turns out everything before was just in her imagination, and she had been calm and polite during the entire wedding. Now Hae-young complains about spending all that money on a wedding gift for her ex who cheated on her. Her friends remind her that she often broke up with boyfriends because she always felt like she was getting the short end of the stick, whether it was over food, bills, or even sex. Ji-look returns a suit to a policeman he knows well. Ji-look has a reputation for being helpful, as he reports crimes and assists the police in catching criminals. He even helps elderly people and is called an angel by some. At home, Hae-young walks her friend Hoi-seon out. Hoi-seon asks about visiting Hae-young's mother, but Hae-young lies, saying her mom's house is in bad shape. Hae-young then says she's going to the grocery store to buy her favorite jellies. They talk about how the store worker, Ji-look, seems to dislike her. When Hae-young goes to the store, she and Ji-look argue about the jellies which have been discontinued. It seems like they've known each other for a while and don't get along. Back at home, Jae-yeon finishes writing a chapter of her web novel, but she receives a lot of hate comments. However, one person leaves a positive comment. That person is a rich woman named Jung-ah, whose son is Joo Hyun, the CEO of Kulbi Education, the company where Hae-young works. Joo Hyun's father complains that Kulbi is ranked second and tells Joo Hyun to make the company #1 within a year. If he doesn't, he'll have to get married. This makes Joo Hyun come to work in a bad mood. His secretary, Ho-jun, manages his anger but secretly wants to transfer to a different department. While passing by the store, Hae-young argues with Ji-look again. After she leaves, Ji-look gets a text message that seems to bother him, maybe from an ex-girlfriend. At work, Hae-young and her coworker talk about all the benefits that married employees get from the company. Later, Hae-young confronts Woo-jae about his cheating, but he shows no guilt at all. She demands he pay her back the money she spent on him, but he refuses. A flashback to 6 months ago shows Hae-young sitting outside a store with a drunk Woo-jae. He's celebrating a promotion and, in his drunken state, says that she's the only one responsible for taking care of her mother. This made Hae-young feel like Woo-jae thought he was getting a bad deal by being with her, since she had to take care of her mom. So she broke up with him. Now she wants to make him regret it. She calls Woo-jae and tells him that she's meeting with his wife, Yilin. Panicked, Woo-jae rushes to where the two women are. But it turns out, Hae-young didn't say anything to Yilin. She just scares enough to make Woo-jae nervous. He then admits that Yilin controls all their money, and his allowance isn't enough to pay Hae-young back. He begs her to wait until she gets married for him to repay her. Ho-jun and Joo Hyun come up with a challenge for the employees to create ideas that will help the company succeed. Joo Hyun is excited about the contest, but still refuses to let Ho-jun transfer to a different department. Ha-young sees the poster for the contest, which says the winners will get to work directly with the president's team and receive a fast-track promotion. However, her boss tells her that single women are never chosen for the teams that work under the CEO. Because of Joo Hyun's father's reputation with single women, only married women are given those roles now. Frustrated, Ha-young goes to the grocery store and buys alcohol. She drinks and complains about how everything seems to require being married. Later, drunk, Ha-young approaches Jiuk and asks him to be her husband. Jiuk is nearby when Woo-ja talks to Ha-young about her mother. He overhears the conversation and later finds Ha-young. He quietly sits beside her and offers her a cigarette without saying anything. There's a flashback from 8 years ago. A young Jiuk visits his grandmother in a nursing home. She's a tough-talking woman who seems to be dying from her love of cigarettes. While they talk, she advises him to marry a good, modest girl. Back to the present, a drunk Ha-young asks Jiuk to marry her. She laughs it off as a joke, but Jiuk rejects her anyway. Flashbacks show that Jiuk has seen her past arguments with ex-boyfriends, one who used all her food and supplies and another who wasn't generous enough in bed. At work, Yilin messages Ha-young asking to meet. On the way, a colleague tells Ha-young that Yilin is close to Joo Hyun's family because Yilin's and Joo Hyun's mothers were best friends. Meanwhile, Joo Hyun keeps blocking Ho-jun from transferring to another department, as Ho-jun was the only man who applied to be secretary and Joo Hyun's mother doesn't let him hire women. Ha-young meets with Yilin, who has also called Woo-ja to join. Yilin says both Ha-young's and Woo-ja's proposals for the company competition are nearly identical. A flashback shows Ha-young once sharing an idea with Woo-ja about a video game that could teach math. After Yilin leaves, Ha-young tells Woo-ja to drop the idea, threatening to reveal everything about their past. Woo-ja counters by threatening to make her look like the bad person in a scandal. In response, Ha-young suddenly says she will win the competition because she's getting married in a month. When Ha-young realizes she actually needs a groom to get married, she goes back to the grocery store and asks Jiuk to pretend to be her husband just for the wedding. As expected, he says no. At home, Ha-young goes through the guest lists from all the weddings her mother attended, planning to invite those people to her own wedding to get money in return. Ha-seong gets upset, saying it's wrong to use their mother like that. Ha-young replies that their mother is really hers, which makes Ha-seong storm out angrily. Jae-yeon tries to bring her back, but Ha-seong says that Ha-young has never treated them like real family. A flashback shows Ha-young's mother bringing Jae-yeon home when they first met and Ha-young feeling ignored by her mother. Jae-yeon still remembers how disappointed Ha-young was. On her way home, Ha-seong looks at a photo of a man named Producer Yun on her phone. Meanwhile, he seems to be involved with another woman. In the morning, Jiuk gets into a heated argument with a man dressed in a black suit. Around the same time, Ha-young is busy looking at wedding venues and caterers, but she accidentally leaves her phone behind at one of the shops. Ha-seong, who works as a voice actor, is recording in a studio with producer Yun. She notices another woman's earring but chooses to ignore it. Later, she receives a call from an unknown number. Ha-young realizes she left her phone behind and rushes back to get it. When she checks her phone, she sees an emergency message from the nursing home. Her mom is having a violent episode. Ha-young hurries there and finds Ha-seong holding their mother as she struggles during a fit. Once their mother is calm and asleep, Ha-young explains to Ha-seong that she didn't expect this either. One day, their mom called her out of the blue and said she had dementia, but not to worry, as she had already moved herself into a nursing home. It's been a year now, and Ha-young gave Ha-seong's number as a backup contact since she's also their mom's daughter. The sisters apologize and make up. Ha-seong advises Ha-young not to go through with the fake wedding, but Ha-young believes she's too unlovable to find real love. She also wants her mom to see her get married before her memory fades completely. Later, Ha-seong tells Jae-yeon about this conversation as they walk down the street, and Jiuk overhears them talking. The man in the black suit comes to Jiuk's store, and Jiuk sees Ha-young's ad asking for a husband on his phone. Jiuk purposely drops and breaks the phone but ends up getting punched in the face in return. The next morning, Jiuk stops Ha-young as she's heading to work. It's raining and he gets under her umbrella. He moves closer and asks if she feels anything between them. Ha-young stumbles with her words but says no. Jiuk then agrees to be her fake groom on one condition. She has to keep the stray cat he's been caring for outside the store. Even though she's not a fan of cats, she agrees. The next day, Ha-young goes out to buy her wedding dress. On her way, she stops by the grocery store and asks Jiuk for his measurements. He ends up going with her. She asks why he hugged her the other day, and he says he was testing if she was allergic to cats. Ha-young thought it was a test for romantic chemistry. but Jiuk confidently says he could never feel anything for her except dislike. At the dress shop, Ha-young tries on a very over-the-top dress. When Jiuk asks why she chose it, she says she doesn't want people to remember him as it could hurt his future. Meanwhile, Jae-yeon meets Joo-hyun's mother, who loves her novels and praises her work. When Joo-hyun and Hee-jun walk into the same hotel, both women hide. Back at the shop, while Jiuk is changing into a tuxedo, Woo-jae and Yi-lin show up unexpectedly. Ha-young doesn't want them to see Jiuk, but he steps out anyway. And to her surprise, he looks amazing in the black tuxedo. Later, the three friends are talking about the wedding. Hwaseon jokes that Ha-young should have picked a more attractive groom, but Ha-young explains she chose someone who isn't too handsome, so he'll be forgettable, which is exactly what she wants. At the dress shop, Jiuk steps out in his suit and everyone, including Ha-young, is shocked by how great he looks. Yi-lin even stays to see which suit he picks. When they ask how Ha-young and Jiuk met, Jiuk says they've known each other since childhood. Later, Ha-young gets mad at Jiuk for being so attractive, making things more complicated. While they argue, a woman interrupts them. It's a cameo from Kim Jung-yeon, playing Junju from ** Strong Girl Nam-soon **. To calm down, Ha-young and Jiuk go to a cafe. Jiuk explains that his grandmother didn't want him to use his looks to get ahead in life. Ha-young then admits that Woo-jae cheated on her for 6 months. She also asks how Jiuk knows so much about her life and her friends. He tells her that she used to talk loudly about them while shopping at the store. Meanwhile, Woo-jae can't stop thinking about Ha-young and Jiuk. Yi-lin casually mentions that Ha-young is exactly Woo-jae's type, but he denies ever thinking about it that way. At home, Joo-hyun tries to convince his mother to allow unmarried women on his team, but she refuses because of his father's past affairs. When Joo-hyun arrives at work, he runs into Ha-young handing out wedding gifts. They exchange greetings and he congratulates her on the wedding. Later, he tells Hee-jun to attend the wedding on his behalf. Ha-young goes to a meeting room where Yi-lin has told everyone how handsome Jiuk is. Her colleagues ask her about the proposal and the ring, but she avoids answering directly. That's when she realizes she needs a wedding video to document their relationship and proposal, as it's the trend now. In the evening, Ha-young goes to the store and asks Jiuk to help her with a big proposal idea. He says no, even when she mentions the cat, Kitty, that he wanted her to take care of. This all happens in front of 2 young students, and it's really funny. Without Jiuk's help, Ha-young grabs his selfie stick and starts filming herself, but Hwaseong and Jae-yeon don't like it and tell her eyes look lifeless. Back in his small apartment, Jiuk keeps getting texts from someone named Yoo-kyun. When she calls, he tells her he doesn't want to go there, meaning someplace overseas. Then he tells her he's getting married. Ha-young buys a wedding ring for herself and rents one for Jiuk. She goes to the store because Jae-yeon asks her to pick up a package. When she arrives, someone locks her in and the lights go out. She follows some fairy lights and finds a message made out of jelly cups that says, "Marry me." A toy train comes by, offering a toy ring. Jiuk is standing behind her and tells her he bought a bunch of her favorite jellies that are about to be discontinued. He asks her to marry him, and she says yes. While they clean up the store, Jiuk shares that someone he knows lives in Canada and wants him to move there. He plans to use this marriage to stop them from contacting him for good. Ha-young feels sorry for him, but also tells him to make a better proposal when he's serious. He says he'll avoid women who want fancy things for proposals, like designer bags and hotel rooms. Basically, women like Ha-young. Later, Hwaseong and Jae-yeon are watching the proposal video, and they notice that Ha-young looks really happy. Meanwhile, Joo-hyun finds his mother's tablet and sees some very adult web novels on it. The wedding day is finally here. Jae-yeon talks loudly on the phone so everyone hears that the groom's family is all abroad, which is why they couldn't come. Ha-young decides not to use the waiting room and instead welcomes the guests in the hall. However, her mother uses the waiting room to greet all the foster kids who have grown up and come to see her. Hwaseong and Jae-yeon get emotional when they realize that Ha-young wanted her mother to have this special moment. While waiting by the hall door, Ha-young sees another bride with her father. This reminds her of her dad comforting her when she was sad after seeing Jae-yeon. He promised they would just be a family of 3 for a while. Now Ha-young feels sorry about something that happened with her dad, but we don't find out what it is. Jiuk arrives and they walk in together, holding hands. As they walk down the aisle, Ha-young wonders if her mother also regrets her father's death. Producer Yun, who is taking wedding photos for Hwaseong, steps out of the hall. Jae-yeon thinks he's going out on a date, but he says he has to go somewhere else. Hwaseong pulls Yun aside, and it's clear that both of them know about his affair with another woman, which she is keeping a secret from Jae-yeon. We also find out that they have been together for 10 years. He gives Hwaseong a kiss and leaves. Hyun arrives to deliver Haeyeon's wedding gift as directed by Joo-hyun. He meets Jae-yeon and realizes she is his old schoolmate. Jae-yeon blushes. After the wedding, Haeyeon and Jiuk are outside on the street. Haeyeon waits for a taxi to take her to a company-sponsored night at the hotel. Jiuk is about to return the wedding ring. Suddenly, Yulin drives by with Woo-jae and says they are using their company-sponsored hotel getaway that same night. Jiuk wants to leave, but Haeyeon convinces him to come with her to the hotel. They end up with rooms next to each other. Jiuk wants to leave again, but Woo-jae steps out of his room and forces them to hide in theirs. We see a scene from the wedding, where the groom has to hug the bride's mother. Jiuk does this, and Haeyeon's mother remembers him and calls him by name. He replies, "It's me."